Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Seedling Podcast. We are your hosts, Simone and
Mia. And today we are joined by the lovely Charlie, who is a content creator, author, and father, among many other things. Welcome, Charlie. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
Yeah, we're so, this has been in the works for some time now. So we finally actually managed to
We've
sit
had a
down
pesky
and do it.
baby get in the way.
Yeah, well, congratulations
Thank
on
you
the
very
new
much.
baby.
Yeah. This is the first sort of big thing I've done in terms of chatting to people outside of our home, really honestly, for 10 weeks now. So I'm very excited to be in the real world.
We're honoured.
Yeah.
We're honoured.
Yeah.
Now a family of 4.
That's right, yeah.
So yeah, congratulations.
Thank
and
you
also
very
you
much.
had your wedding anniversary this weekend.
Yesterday, yeah. Man, you've done your
We've just
research.
been-
Yeah. Been a big weekend.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much. Well, to celebrate it, we spent we were about 300 miles apart from each other for the whole day.
Wow.
So we've actually been together, obviously, intensely since Lockie, our second, was born. But yesterday, just a couple of things meant that we were apart for the whole day, and today we're apart Father's Day. So it's not really how you're meant to do it, but we'll do something nice this evening.
Good.
To
Yeah.
make up for it.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. So talking about your wife, you and your wife started something called the Travel Project.
That's right. Yeah.
Do you want to just talk a little bit about that first?
Yeah.
Just a little introduction of what that is and what made you start it, how long you started it.
Of course. I don't know if I can give you a little introduction just because there's so much
Make
there.
it long.
We've got
But what
all the
I'll do is
time.
I'll try and give you some sort of succinct summary of it all. So almost calling Jess my wife seems strange just because we've been together since we were 18, I think, and we're now 37. I'm a bit hesitant on that. We are 37, both of us.
Nearly 20 years. That's
Yeah. It's
amazing.
coming up to that. So life pre the travel project was we've known each other forever. But probably about what was it now? Gosh, probably about 9 years ago, we got basically bored of working in marketing and advertising, and we decided we were going to start a project. And as a placeholder, I called it the Travel Project because it was just this thing that we did extracurricularly in our minds, a sort of almost fantasy, if you will. Obviously, the name has stuck since then, and the idea originally was very different to what the idea is now. The idea originally was around not the birth of Instagram, but around the time when Instagram was just starting to not even pop, but just be interesting as a concept, and people in marketing worlds was thinking, this is going to be quite an impactful space for potentially brands and storytelling, etc. Anyway, so we decided at that point we were came up with a sort of slightly mad idea, which was we're going to try and travel the whole world, not use a guidebook or travel app. We were only going to use Instagram to guide our journey. So we'd go to a new city or place around the world and we would meet people via the app, and we would then let them dictate our movements. So the first thing that we did was we went to Delhi in India, and we met a baker there called Shavesh, who's now very successful, but at the time was just figuring out what Instagram was at the time. And long story short, that mechanic basically worked, and it was really cool because we got to see a local's perspective on all the places we visited. So rather than going to the most obvious places, we got under the skin of it and got introduced to a fair few subcultures around the world. Very interesting, cool, interested people and interesting people. So that was really cool, and we did that for a while. We did that on and off with working and freelancing and trying to figure it out. And then lockdown hit. And one of the things that happened for us, which I'm sure to an extent it happens for a lot of people, was we started questioning our, everything, I suppose. It was just literally everything. We're like, what are we doing with our lives? And mainly in the context of this, what we're doing with this project, with this travel project. And we thought it doesn't feel right to be, when we had a bit of space to think about it, it doesn't feel right to be promoting air travel in the way that we are. Or rather, sorry, let me reframe that. We didn't feel comfortable doing it. People do it, and that's cool, and I do get that, because traveling is really important, right? Going to different cultures and meeting new people and understanding how other people live is integral to the world, really.
Yeah.
But we just thought we don't really want to be promoting that. So anyway, as you can see, it's quite a staged story.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Then what we decided was, what happens if we don't take any aeroplanes for our adventures? And that was an interesting thought that kind of sat with us for, a couple of weeks. And we thought, okay, well, if we didn't take any aeroplanes, why don't we limit it to the UK? And if we limit it to the UK, is there enough in the UK? So we had this idea to basically not take any aeroplanes and see what the UK had to offer. Because growing up, I was born in 1987, and in the 90s we were told, if you will, through marketing that the UK is a bit boring. That it's like kind of, if you go away in the summer, it's probably going to rain, and you'll probably end up at a National Trust property with a soggy tuna sandwich. And the image was just bad vibes. Like, it's not something you wanted to do. It wasn't exciting. It certainly wasn't going to inspire a whole new generation to look more sort of closer to home for adventures. So then we thought, what happens if we try and do 52 UK adventures in 52 weeks? Wow. So just do one a week for a year. And a lot of what Jess and I do is we come up with like this kind of idea, and it sounds great, and then you go to do it and it's like, okay, that's actually a bit harder than we thought, because you've got to finance it, you've got to produce it in terms of like find 52 adventures. And our rule was, we want to try and find genuinely exciting adventures. So not just doing stuff that people are going to be like, oh yeah, that looks all right. We wanted it to be the predominantly stuff that people are going to be like, I did not know that was in the UK.
Yeah.
So we went and did that. So we did 52 in 52 weeks. In the middle of that, we had our first son, Sonny. So it was absolutely mad. So we did all sorts of shuffling around and just did 2 some week. And obviously when he was born, we couldn't do any for a while. Ended up doing it. And the list of things we wanted to do in the UK only got longer. So it wasn't like, okay, we've exhausted the UK now. It was like, wow, there's a lot out there. And then sort of bringing it closer to present day, off the back of that, we were very fortunate to get a few book deal offers. I suppose when you think about it, it kind of lends itself quite nicely to a book.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that was great, a really exciting sort of thing for us, I suppose. And then bringing up to present day, it's kind of enabled us to grow this community of people who are like really interested in the UK, basically. So there you go. That's a long answer.
Wow, such a great answer.
It's kind of like 9-year thing that has like evolved. I don't want to say organically. It's such an annoying word, isn't it? But it has. It has quite naturally just kind of like taken on new shape and form. And now we sit here in 2025, and it's this whole kind of, well, it's a business, I suppose, which is kind of mad.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Wow, that's
exciting.
Amazing. Yeah, and obviously within those kind of 9 years, you kind of touched on it, but you like released a book, Achievable Adventures.
Yeah.
Which looks really, really interesting, and recently did the map of England, which is basically just all the different spots that you can go and visit.
We just pressed live on that about an hour ago at the time of recording. So that's exceptionally exciting for us, because it's everywhere we've ever been in England. So it's like this kind of cathartic, almost therapeutic experience writing it all down somewhere, because in the book we touched on some places, but this is like every cafe, every pub we stayed in, every pub we ate in, the car parks that we thought were like genuinely good to know about because they were like either beautifully positioned or like very convenient. It's just like this big dump of information, but beautifully laid out. And I can say beautifully laid out because I didn't do the layout. So it's really exciting, man. I'm really excited. You try to be like, we were talking about this earlier, weren't we? I get quite I think no one's going to be interested. Still to this day, I think no one's going to be interested. So I'm hugely like so appreciative when people actually show interest in it. And the other thing about our followers, our community, is they're so polite. It takes me back every time. I'm like wow, people are sending us messages really appreciative of it, you know. So I just feel really lucky.
I feel like it's because you guys are, though. You've got such amazing like energy, and I mean, you know, for those listening, if you go and look at the Instagram page, it's just such a well created page. I just imagine anyone that you wouldn't really get any hate, really. I mean,
it feels like a safe space.
That's an interesting question. So thank you, that's really kind. What I would say is that our community, so the people who follow us across social, are absolutely beautiful, lovely characters, and I think probably there's 2 prongs to what you've just said, and the first is that we really love doing what we do, and we try to always be really, hopefully that comes across in what we do. So I think that maybe breeds an enthusiasm from the people who are watching the stuff, but also try to be really open with people. So I think to an extent people understand that we are kind of legit with it all. But then on the other side is if we ever do something that goes viral, and what I sort of mean by viral is breaking outside of our existing community,
Yeah, of course.
like
Into
on
the
a bigger level.
Yeah.
So like, let's say get a million views or whatever. Then then the trolls come out to play in a big way, and it's amazing, really, like, because you don't prior to being fully trolled, if that's what we're going to call it, I wouldn't necessarily be able to guess all the things that they would troll you about.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like kind of like, oh wow, you've read it like that, like that's
So misconstrued.
Yeah.
yeah. It's like kind of
Yeah.
like, oh, it's quite. I actually, it's not the groundbreaking thing to say. I actually hate it,
Yeah.
surprisingly.
Yeah, of course.
But more than I thought I would. It gets to be more than I thought it would, and
Yeah.
I think you just feel really exposed.
Yeah.
Seen, like perceived.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
also like it's going to sound weird, but like don't really like being in the limelight.
Yeah.
Really, weirdly, it's just kind of like happened through what we do, and I would say Jess even more so actually. And like really, what we want to do is just like go explore cool places and share them with people. But byproduct is, you get this stuff, but you realise, I'm very fortunate as is Jess to not really suffer with any sort of mental health or issues or anxiety or anything like that. But my gosh, if I did, it'd be absolutely awful, some of the things that people say, like, so it's really interesting
Yeah.
to see that element of the internet and see
Yeah.
these people say some of the things that you're like, wow, that's so rude.
Yeah, they'll pick at absolutely anything. I've had it
Literally.
recently with some of the posts that I've made, and it's been like, I've been talking to me about it. It's
Yeah.
been like the same exact comment in like different formats on each of my posts, and I'm like,
And it
Don't
makes
wanna
you
do
kind of
this anymore.
Yeah, it makes you
Yeah.
second guess yourself.
yeah,
But I
but
always,
it's fine now.
yeah.
I'm just like facing it. I'm like, it is what it is, and it's always going to come. There's going to be
Yeah.
someone that's going to disagree. No matter what like
Yeah.
value and positive thing you're posting.
I was going to say, literally, I think every single person we've had on the podcast to date has mentioned how they've gotten some type of, like, that's in, like,
Yeah.
social media and has,
Yeah.
like, social media channels, has mentioned that they've got
Yeah.
that and have, like, struggled with that. Because I think that's just what it is, because the social media, it's such a beautiful place to connect with people and, like, share thoughts and be creative and be inspired. But it's also, like, you're opening up to the entire world to have
Yeah.
an opinion
Yeah.
on you and your life.
Yeah.
And that could be very, feels like you said, vulnerable.
Yeah, vulnerable, but opening up, because you are opening yourself up. You're taking that, or let's talk to myself. We are doing that, so we're putting stuff out there.
Yeah.
And like the rules of the game, if you want to call it that, are that you kind of what comes back is kind of like fair game to an
Yeah,
extent.
yeah.
I think potentially the ethics and the morality of the game will hopefully change and evolve over time as people start to understand, that you probably shouldn't be going around being extremely rude to strangers on the internet. Although we're a long way off that. Perhaps it will get worse. The way things are going. But we do open ourselves up to it, and some of the criticism, to be fair, is quite useful sometimes. But a lot of it's like comes from quite angry place from people.
true.
So it's a funny one, isn't it?
Yeah. To be honest, it's never really. It always sounds so personal, but it's always a projection from their own self-hatred as well. So you just have to kind of.
And also, people say, don't they?
Ignore
Like everyone says it. If you listen to people who have got a real profile online, people with millions or whatever, they'll say that you'll get, for all the thousands of nice things, you'll think about the one or the two.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's just is what you do, weirdly, as a human. And I think if you don't do that, you've got some sort of strange mental constitution. But you do have to, again, back to the launch of this map, I'm just trying to like kind of bottle the feeling of people being so nice. So I'm like, this is the flip side to all of the nastier stuff. But that said, I'm making it out like it happens the whole time. It just happens on a few videos, and it's quite like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to share some nice places in the UK.
Yeah.
So we're not doing that controversial, I don't think.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, no, it's amazing and it's so valuable, and especially the book and the map of England. It's got so much value for people. You've curated it where people are like, oh my god, this is exactly what I've been looking for.
Yeah, cool.
For me personally, I look at it and I'm like, I really want to do more adventures around the UK. So it's just so helpful that you guys have made this.
Amazing. Yeah, it's funny because we always say, like, we've tried to make them, both those things, as something that, because they weren't there for us.
Yeah.
So like when we started our project originally, but when we started focusing on the UK, you go to research online usually, or in books, and there just wasn't that thing. There's lots of guidebooks and stuff, but like, I think part of our slant on it, if you will, is trying to sort of position it with a bit more thought. So the type of adventures they are not just like a bunch of hikes, which are great. I love hikes, but it's like always, if it's a hike, it will be to a particular spot for sunset, and trying to advise people to buy a little stove beforehand and pick up some cheap bits so you can have a fire and maybe a beer at the top and stuff like that. Or on the flip side, some extraordinary stuff like sailing around the Outer Hebrides and stuff like that, or the Inner Hebrides rather. And then also present it in a slightly more designed format, because like when I look at all the traditional guidebooks, it's always presented in a very similar style, and I just think I glazed over to that whole world for years. The way, from my background anyway, the way that stuff is presented is key to that. So if you go into a bookshop and you look in the travel section, it's just like, in my opinion, I don't want to sound like I'm being rude, but it's quite formulaic, you know, it's quite homogenized to an extent. So we wanted to create something that felt like almost not in the travel section. We wanted it to feel like it's more of a sort of lifestyle piece, if you will. And just to cut through and to get different audiences excited about it, and ultimately people to go, actually, yeah, it's all right here. It's quite cool. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's a big part of what we do, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I like to think.
Yeah. I'd love to talk a little bit more about like nature, because I feel like a lot of your adventures are in or around or kind of like centered around nature.
Yeah.
And that's also like a really big part of Simone and I's like podcast and friendship, and like that's where we go to heal and talk and whatever. It's been like a huge part of our healing journey.
It's our safe space.
I'd love for you to talk about your connection to nature and how you first kind of realized like, oh, this is like a really cool place to be. And like to be myself or whatever.
No, it's really interesting, isn't it? Everyone has a different relationship with it to an extent. For me, I was lucky. When I grew up, my sister and I would go on holiday to, like, my parents would get like what wasn't called Airbnb back then, but like it was a B&B basically in Yorkshire or up in the Highlands. And I think probably right at the beginning of that experience, I would be like a bit like, oh, we're going to, you know, it felt a bit unglamorous potentially. But when I got up there, I started to just absolutely love it. And looking back on those times, it was because we were able to go off safe out into the forests, into the woods, into the sea, into the dales in Yorkshire, and make dens. And, you know, the trust that our parents gave us in that space was like completely different to if we were, I don't know, like in a seaside resort or something like that. So those memories obviously kind of embedded themselves deep in me. And then as I got older, I was fortunate to go travelling after school, and I loved it, and I loved the human side of travel. I absolutely loved it, but like I was always felt a very specific feeling whenever I was somewhere in the natural world that was different. So that kind of sort of building up within me this thing. And then 20s in advertising in London, I got out as much as I could, but really I was just thinking about going out and all the stuff you think about in your 20s. And then I think I started to remember it all again at the back end of my 20s, when I started thinking, what's my life going to look like as I move into my 30s? And then I sort of kind of went back to nature, if you will. And the role it started to play in my life at that point was, I suppose, I'm always hesitant to say escape, because I don't think it was an escape so much as a place where I could just go and think in a completely different mindset and a different framework, because everything that I was seeing and feeling was different. Therefore, the thoughts that came out were different. They didn't have to necessarily be like these groundbreaking thoughts. They would just probably be less thoughts, you know. And now I talk about, like, it's quite nice to go and be places out in nature for a while, to almost allow yourself the opportunity to be slightly bored almost, and let your mind wander. Because when you're around your phone or your laptop, you're in a city, we all know it, you don't have any time to let your mind just kind of go slow. So I think the role it plays now for me is that. But then having kids, it's like, okay, wow, I'm Jess and I are constantly talking about, again, she had a similar experience growing up, so embedding that love of nature in them as soon as possible, if they want to, which, by the way, kids probably do want to.
They do, yeah.
And then as the world becomes crazier and AI and digital this and everything becomes more and more hectic and screens are sort of unavoidable wherever you go, hopefully they'll have that relationship with nature that they can then fall back on, because I found it so valuable. So yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? Because I think it's about framing it as well for me, because I think some of the language you can talk about nature puts people off. So I'm constantly trying to find the right language to try and express my relationship with it without it putting off the macho men or whatever, because macho men, to call them that, I don't know what I call that, but you know what I mean.
We know what you mean.
Blokes. Blokes who would call it sort of wishy-washy, just like, nature, you know. Yeah. But there, I'm always interested in talking to that type of person, trying to persuade them that the benefits are like quite extraordinary, really. So I'm really lucky in that sense. Like, you know, we sort of by design, we now spend a lot of our time in nature. But and the boys are now, well, Lockie's 2 months old, so but he spent a lot of time in nature already, and so it's kind of interesting because we get him out on adventures with us, and we just kind of lie him down on his like sort of padded mat thing, and he just in the forest or whatever, and you're looking at him thinking like, this is probably going in somehow, you know, he's listening to the birds and whatnot.
Of course.
And Sonny, our eldest, is well, nature obsessed a bit strong, but he loves it. He absolutely loves it. Like right now, he's at my parents' house, and their neighbour, Alan, he grows rhubarb in his garden.
Lovely.
Which obviously in London, that's pretty cool, right? He's got the space to do that. And as soon as he brought some round this morning, literally just now, and Sonny was like, rhubarb. So how does that grow? Anyway, so he went back to Alan's house, and now he's at Alan's house digging it out of the garden to give to Jess, you know. And so I just think that it's so interesting that interest is there, and if you can just give it a little gentle nudge, it will really, well, blossom, to use a sort of pun. So yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it's really cool. And what about you guys? So how much do you get to spend time in nature, would you say?
Well, I live in the countryside, so a lot if I can, if I have the time and make time, I guess, because there's no excuse really. I literally live right next to a beautiful forest, so I can just go in and go for a walk.
But also you don't have your horizon's a lot different, I would imagine, to if you lived in London, in terms of you're not looking at big buildings the whole time.
No, it's like I don't know.
It's pretty flat.
It's a pretty flat town.
Trees.
Yeah.
But like,
so like I look out and I just see like, you know, the Shard and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very lucky, very, very lucky right now, because there's a lot of beautiful nature around me, and when I moved back from university, because my mum only recently moved there like the past 3 years, I was like, oh God, I'm so far away from my friends. Like, what am I gonna do?
And
it's literally like an hour drive. It's not that deep, but still, it was a lot. You know, it's not like the same as walking 5 seconds down the road to your friend. And now I'm just so grateful for it, because it's held me in ways, you know, that people couldn't, or you know, like I've just been in bits in the forest, and the forest has calmed me down, you know, and I just feel so grateful to be where I am. Cool. And so grateful to my mum to have moved.
Yeah, it's cool, isn't it?
And I've always loved nature. When I was a kid, I was part of a very interesting kind of school curriculum called Steiner education, like Waldorf education. And it's very nature based. So I've always been into nature, but kind of fell out of it when I was a teenager.
But it's the same story, right?
Just, I feel like it's kind of almost natural when you live in London. You kind of just end up following the crowd and wanting to go out and wanting to party and wanting to just talk to different people instead of be in nature. But yeah, no, recently, and especially with Mia, like we just love going out for walks and exploring different places, and we went to Slovenia in February this year and
where did you go?
loads of
Did you go to Lake Bled?
Lake
Did
Bled.
you go to Boheen down the road?
Yeah. We went for a cold swim. That was freezing.
In February,
Oh, you went in February, did you?
Yeah,
Good work. I've been in the summer twice. And
Summer's gorgeous.
Summer's
we would love to go in summer.
Yeah.
It's pretty bleak.
It was dark.
It was beautiful. It was
Yeah.
beautiful. And then we went to like a national park and walked
There was
around
snow,
and just
gorgeous.
it was
Incredible.
absolutely gorgeous because it was like ski season as well, so everyone was skiing. And then we're going to Iceland, and we just love doing nature related holidays together, as well as beach stuff as well, but just being in the woods and being together walking is like really important for us together.
Amazing,
Definitely.
Yeah, what about you?
Yeah, no, I was born and I grew up until I was like 7 in East Germany. So like my whole family is there, apart from my mum and my sister. And it was a very small town and also surrounded by nature, like loved it so much. Then moved here when I was 7, started going to school in London. And similar, I had a return to nature like the last 4 years, I want to say. It's a bit tough because I do want to leave London. But again, like I'm in marketing right now. So in London, in central London. So it's like a lot going in. On the tube, like peak, rush hour, whatever. And like literally what I'm dreaming of all the time is just like being in the forest, like being in a field, being like just being in nature. And I know that is in my future, but I think for now, it's serving a purpose for me right now to like definitely save and come up with my own thing. And obviously we're doing the podcast and stuff like that. But yeah, again, I really resonated with what you said in terms of like returning to nature, because it's like, I don't know, I feel like it's in everyone. I feel like everyone has like an innate pull towards it, and you'll eventually like go back to it whenever you feel. It's like a ebb and flow kind of thing.
It's a funny one, isn't it? Because I think that yes, you're absolutely right, humans are meant to be in nature, of course, is the way, but there's also a confidence piece that I often think about, whereby like if you were fortunate enough to have been in nature when you're younger, like the three of us have, you are equipped with certain skills that you sort of perhaps don't even think about in terms of the confidence just to be out in those spaces and know kind of like the rules, if you will. And I find with some of my mates now who are our age, they're super successful, confident people, but they lack a bit of confidence about like, I don't know, like what you like allowed to do. And that's been really interesting to me. Like, and they don't necessarily say overtly what you're allowed to do, but they're a bit more nervous about like going to a national park and, don't know rules about camping or making fires or anything like that, or even just feeling completely comfortable in those spaces. That's really interesting to me, because I was surprised by it with these people who are very confident. So I think there's some work to be done as a country and as a society to kind of like open those spaces up to people who haven't had the fortune to experience them when they were younger. Especially like inner city people, right? Kids who just don't have access to those spaces, like quite literally, like some boroughs in London especially. So we're currently talking with a charity that get inner city kids out of London, and I think maybe Birmingham as well.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And get them out into those spaces, because I did that when I was younger, and that's actually, sad as it is to say, is a privilege.
It is.
It's mad to think that's become a privilege, because everyone should have it, but it is a privilege.
It is for sure.
So yeah, we're talking with them, and it's really interesting, because it's back to trying to make it cool. You want to try and engage these kids on a level where they don't just think, oh, here's some boring old bloke telling me that trees are cool. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's trying to figure out what that, again, back to marketing, it's like trying to figure out what that framework is, what that language is, how you get them excited about it. Because I remember going on some trips when I was little and having some instructors who were just a bit keen. Do you know what I mean? The kind of people
just don't relate.
Yeah, you're just like, there's just like a gulf of whatever between us, and I'm just like, it's just kind of with the way my brain works, I just sort of switch off. So if you can kind of bridge that gap for 50% of them, I don't know, 10% of them, and you get that message across, then they would then have that, they'd go off in their 20s as well, I'm sure, and do whatever, but then they would probably revisit it when life got a little bit more hectic, when you get to the whatever age it is, when your inbox is just intimidating and awful, and the city's becoming a bit much. But I have seen a lot of, like, from a sort of creator perspective, a lot of new faces, voices, backgrounds in the space, and I'm just like, that is a good thing.
It's great.
I was literally just about to say that. I feel like there's like a surge, there's like a movement, I can feel it around like nature and going outside and connecting to yourself and connecting to the world around you. I feel like loads of the people that we've had on recently have had that like connection to nature, and they're also all like fairly young like individuals from loads of different backgrounds, and I think that's really cool and also really relatable for like people, like kids growing up now, seeing it's not just like a 6-year-old retired man or whatever who's like loves nature. It's like it's accessible for everyone if you want it and if you want to seek it out, kind of thing.
Exactly. And listen, me and Jess are middle class white people, and we're not relatable to some people, like absolutely not, like, and that's totally understandable. So to have voices come in and be relatable across the space, it's definitely a good thing. And I think that's the rise of that is sort of twofold. I think it's to do with the trend, if you want to call it that. And I'd be careful with trend, because that implies that it's going to go away perhaps at some point, but people are starting to realize that screens are not great for you. You know, in moderation, fine, whatever, but like too much is not good. So that people are moving away from that, and with that comes the second thing, which is that brands are following that, so the money's going there. And that's kind of, on the one hand, a depressing observation, because it's like people are only interested because, you know, there's money to be made there. But I think that's the only way you really get big change.
And
in some senses. So like a lot of creators are seeing that you can, you know, the North Face might give you some money to go on an adventure, and I think that's really useful in inspiring people to go and create content, because if there's no money there, these voices aren't going to come and do it, because it's just like we just don't have the hours in the day. So I think it's really cool. It's like there's something happening, isn't there? Like everyone's kind of a bit like AI, screens, it kind of feels a bit
doesn't
intense.
Feel right.
There's
something that doesn't
it's
really
like Black
feel right
Mirror.
About that.
But in Black Mirror is like almost, it's almost redundant, isn't it, Black Mirror now? Because
it's like real.
It's already happening.
Literally.
How long's Black Mirror been out for? Slightly sort of like over 10 years.
It's been a while.
So like when it first came out, you're like, it seemed a bit like, oh, I see what he's doing here. It's kind of quite far-fetched, but now you're just like, that's
it's like the same thing, but in a different format.
You just feel like it some of the, if you read the news, like any day, especially like today or whatever, you're just like, mad. It's gone mad, you know. So you want to, getting back to spending time in nature, that's one of those places that we say, like, you're not tempted to look at your phone when you're in nature. You just, well, I'm not. I'm just not.
No.
It's just like,
it's like the last thing you want to do.
You've got so much to look at, so much to be engaged in, but also it's just like, you just don't, it's your instinct's not to go for it, because you're just, I don't know, maybe just on a deeper human level, you're just like, no, this is where I'm sort of meant to be. So like, that's when I'm on the sofa perhaps, and my mind is going a bit numb from work or whatever. So it's weird. It's a funny time in the space.
I mean, okay, well then in that case, I'd love to discuss any advice you would give to people that are trying to get out and do more nature-based adventures, and don't really know where to start, or like, how to begin, really.
Well, I think it's a really good question. A lot of it is mindset, perhaps, obviously, which is that you got X hours in a week, and a lot of people say, oh, I don't have the time, or a lot of people say, I don't have the money, a lot of people say, oh, I don't really know where to start. And I think with time, it's like, we often say, like, try and think of it as your diet, like as a diet. Like, you're not always going to be able to have the absolute best. Sometimes you just got to settle for like a fix, so you go for a walk in a natural space near you, and then look at the train that will get you out to certain, like, I don't know, it might be the seaside or a forest outside of London on a Saturday. If you've got a bit more time, go and do a 2-nighter, but maybe go and wild camp on Dartmoor. Those are more kind of like accessible things. And then beyond that, I suppose it's finding, like you guys have found each other, find a mate who's is interested in it as well, because it's a lot more fun, I would argue. Some people love doing it by themselves, but a lot more fun if you find a pal who's like aligned on that. And then commit to something with them. So like say, all right, by the end of this year, so we're in June now, by the end of this year, make it super achievable. We're going to do 2 overnight trips together and they can only be one night, you know, and you can stay in a youth hostel, you could wild camp, you could, we've often stay above pubs for like, you know, not that much money. It doesn't have to, the accommodation doesn't have to be amazing.
Yeah.
And then commit to going and doing a hike, or what I always love to do is go on Google Maps and go in and try and find a body of water.
Yeah.
So it might be a lake or a river. Do a bit of homework around that in terms of safety and cleanliness, unfortunately, and all that kind of stuff. And then get yourself a little stove and cook up on the side of the river or the lake, cook up a bacon bap, or we often do like just beans on toast or something like that.
Yeah.
We often try and set ourselves a cap on that and try and spend tops £10 between the two of us, or three of us, four of us. Well, Lockie's cheap, doesn't eat much. Yeah, and so it becomes quite achievable. And I suppose what I'm saying is build it into your diet, your kind of schedule, your calendar, slowly but surely. And I think you'll start to, the more you get out there, the more you'll meet someone who said, oh, have you done that? You know, it might be a trail or a hike, or it might be a swim. You're like, no, what's that? And then you write it down in your notes, do that next time. And your list will just start growing, and your comfort within those spaces will become far more sort of natural, and you will most likely just continue and continue and continue, and you'll probably try and rope in another mate, and that mate will be like, I don't know, it sounds kind of boring. Trust me, come on one, and we'll just do a little overnighter, or we'll go watch a sunrise or sunset together. And then my experience is they're like, oh, that was fun. That was good. And like, if you're going for a night out in London, by the way, I haven't been out for a night out in London in a while, but like, you're spending quite a lot of money, like
£100 at least.
Yeah.
So if you took that £100 and looked at like a cheap train ticket, and you ate like a picnic, you could that £100 go quite far in the outdoors, basically. So like, from a monetary perspective, it's not as expensive people think it is. You know what I mean? So yeah, my advice would always sort of be along those lines. But I think the main thing is if you've got an interest, just start researching, start talking to your mates, start just doing little bits, little and often, and you'll start to grow that confidence. I would suggest.
Okay. Good. I feel inspired now.
Does that make sense? I was a bit
Definitely.
So we have to send like each other like goals to do within like the year.
But I do think that committing to things is quite good.
Yeah.
Because commit to them to yourself is one thing, but to commit to them to a mate or whoever it is, you hold each other accountable, and you're like, so when we did that 52-52, we told our followers we're going to do 52-52, and then we realised immediately, oh shit,
you have to do it now.
You actually have to
do it. Like, I think we would have given up had we not been accountable and be slightly embarrassed. That we're like, oh, we did 10 and then we didn't do it. Like,
Sorry.
It's kind of embarrassing, you know. So like, if you make that commitment, hold yourself accountable, but make it realistic. Because if you like, ours was mental, but if you commit to something that's genuinely achievable for the two of you or whoever it may be, then you'll probably do it. And maybe like, if you're feeling confident, which you guys clearly are, just do one that's a little like, you know, it's just on the line, you almost where your comfort levels are. And then as soon as you expand your comfort zone a little bit, you'll want to do it a little bit more, probably. Is the way it works. And that's quite I don't want to say addictive, but it's quite a invigorating experience.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It definitely like increase your self-esteem as well, just in general, because you're kind of like forced to really be proactive and like use your initiative. And,
absolutely.
You know, you don't have the
huge.
comfort of like a hotel giving you your fresh towels and things like that. You're kind of like
it's
just
huge. Yeah.
out. And
the other thing we say is that everyone's comfort zone is different. It's literally your comfort zone.
Yeah.
So it's like some people will feel slightly uncomfortable going on a walk. Honestly, like a hike somewhere, and other people would say, "Oh, that's not an adventure." You know, people say that to us sometimes, like, "That's not an adventure." It's like, adventure is like a really personal.
Adventure could be going to the shop.
Yeah.
Whatever you want it to be.
We say it's personal and scalable, so it's totally up to you what an adventure is, because your comfort zone is something that's dictated by you and all the various different things that make up your personality, essentially, and it's also scalable. So I could go to the Richmond Park. and have a picnic watching out over all the deer. That's an adventure. It's a nice little one. It's not gonna fill me full of adrenaline, but it's going to take me into a different space. It's going to push me slightly outside of my day to day, and that's cool. Or I could go to scuba diving off a ship in the Outer Hebrides to look for various different sea life. That's also an adventure. It's just at the other end of it in the UK sense. So yeah, I think it's important to kind of be aware of your comfort zone. But then to your point was like, if you're regularly, no matter how far outside, you're just putting a little toe outside of the comfort zone, or you're putting your whole body miles outside of your comfort zone, you are pushing yourself a little bit or a fair amount. And in that space outside of it, in that space between comfort and let's say discomfort, is where a lot of learning happens, where you learn a lot about yourself. You learn about resilience, you learn about I guess what scares you, what inspires you, what you're capable of. And we always say, look, those trips, you want to come back from those trips with far more than just experiences that last longer than a suntan, right? So like a lot of people, when I was younger, used to go on holiday, and I'd be like, I'm going to go and get a suntan. That's like my one aim, you want to have fun and whatnot. And you come back, you're like, look how tan I am. You go out that night if you can, so that everyone sees you. Everyone sees your suntan. You're like, whoa, I'm suntanned. Like you get it in the diary. Let's get it in because it's fading. And then
come on, quick coffee tomorrow. Come on.
As much as possible.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks later, you're like, I haven't got that suntan anymore. It's gone. But these experiences, I think, they either seep into your subconscious and come out in interesting ways, or you get really bang hard lessons from being out in the outdoors. And those things, in terms of the benefits of it, I've found hugely important. And I wouldn't be able to. I don't think I've got the intelligence or certainly the vocabulary to really communicate with any sort of succinct accuracy the exact effects they've had on me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that I just know that I've carried them into my personal life.
Well, it's
with
complex.
my friends.
It's
seriously
multifaceted.
complex.
And
if you're to read into the studies, which we do obviously from various different universities about those impacts, you start reading about them from someone who's really clever, and they come through with clarity. You're like, oh, that's what's been happening to me. When I'm in the outdoors, and that's how I've benefited from it. And then I sort of reflect on my relationships and sort of some of the things I've done in those relationships. I'm like, oh yeah, I've probably done that because I've realised, a bicker or an argument doesn't matter. You get a bit of context on
you get perspective.
Perspective, yeah.
For sure.
So it's really interesting. I found the whole space really interesting for all the reasons we've discussed.
Definitely.
Yeah. I kind of want to also talk about de-romanticizing it a little bit as well, because like...
Yeah, good. I'm up for that.
Yeah, because what you... because like, obviously right now we're saying how lovely it is and how amazing it is, but that's also because in hindsight you look back and you're like, that was great. But in the moment, like, just for anyone listening or watching, like, you might not always feel it is that amazing in the moment because you're like, I don't know, caught in the rain, or like it's been a bit cloudy that day, so you're like not catching the sun like you'd want, or it's a hard walk, or the water's really cold, something hard, but then you come back home or come back to your campsite and you're like, I needed that was great, and I'm glad I got through that. I think there's like an aspect of, I don't know.
They call it type 2 fun. Is that what they call it? So,
I don't know.
So type 2 fun is you go out and you get absolutely soaking, you're freezing, and you're thinking at the time, this is rubbish.
Yeah.
And then you get back and you've got your socks ideally you've got your socks by the fire. Yeah. And you've had a hot drink, whatever it may be. Nice. And you're reflecting and you're like, something happened to me in the last hour or however long it was, where I realised that was good for me. But de-romanticising, I like the way you've put that, because it is not, especially in the UK, and people are always like, oh, one of the criticisms we sometimes get is like, this doesn't look like the UK. If this was the UK, the whole video would be raining. Right, okay, fine. That's like if you want to come at us with that, fine, whatever. Yeah. But the point is, it does rain and you do get wet, and sometimes you do get like a blister, or like it goes wrong because you get lost, or in our case a child vomits all over your face, or poos absolutely everywhere.
Poonami.
Yeah, poonami. Well, seriously, poonami's happen, but like that is just part of it. And if you didn't go because you were worried about one or all of those things happening, you'd never do anything in life.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
It's true.
But it is important. I actually thought you were going to talk about de-romanticising what we do from a travel project.
Yeah, I want to talk about
that as well.
Yeah,
I want to talk about that as well. I just wanted to also say,
I think they're quite interlinked, right? And the thing that joins them amongst other things is that we're always thinking about how much we talk about the less romantic, sexy side of being in the outdoors and indeed doing what we do, because you don't want to sound like you're complaining, you know. So this is the other thing, like, because we're really grateful for what we do, but also part of us like is constantly thinking, I don't want to leave people thinking that look at those two with their perfect lives, you know, because that for me, like, I've got mates and family members who've come off social media for mental health reasons, and one of the main things they pull out is that they're like, oh, you know, so and so I went to school with has got the most amazing life, and like, why is my life not like that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, so and so you went to school with, life is probably not as amazing as it looks like online. And for us, I think about that a lot, because we are, you know, gallivanting around the UK and with all this kind of perceived enthusiasm, of which it's a lot of it's real, but as you know, with our two boys, and it looks great. And it is, but there are some crap times, man. Like, we're arguing, you know, in the way other people argue. There's screaming children. There's hours at motorway service stations trying to let Sonny run around and you know, get his energy out, because you don't want to, you know, make him just be in a car the whole time. And so it's a really interesting thing. But, you know, you don't want to sort of come across like complaining. So that balance, we haven't got it right yet, but just constantly trying to think about, can we introduce a series that somehow puts across the less good side, but not as a complaint, but just more just for people to go like, oh, okay, that exists. That exists, and it's like, maybe they would think if they saw that, like, oh, okay, they have the same kind of stuff we do in terms of it being more of a challenge or whatever. But yeah, no, it's interesting because we're all sugarcoating sort of subconsciously or consciously online a bit, aren't we? You're putting your best, it's your shop front, if you will, and you're trying to make your shop front as sort of immaculate as possible. But I like to think that the trend and that particular area of social media is starting to become realer, and people are buying into that. Well, it definitely is. From the beginning, do you remember at the beginning of social media, it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, it was just completely ridiculous. But now people are craving realer stories and interactions, and that's
something to relate to.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a really interesting question. But to bring it back to when you're actually out there in the outdoors, I do think that people need to have their expectations managed. Like, you're going to get rained on, most likely. And you're going to probably get lost, but it is all kind of part of it as well, you know. And you kind of throw yourself into that, out of your comfort zone and into that, and you'll learn. That's where the learning happens, as I was saying.
No, so true. Wow.
Amazing. No,
I just really resonated with everything you just said. That was like really,
no, it's cool.
You worded that very beautifully.
It's a funny side of it all, because on the one hand, you don't want to put people off, because people do they do have all these. A lot of people have a fear of it all, to be honest with you. They're like, what if I'm so far outside my comfort zone and I'm in part of the country I don't know, and I'm wet and I don't know how to get back to my Airbnb or the pub I'm staying in or whatever. And I do actually, I can't really completely relate to that, because I'm lucky I've been able to build up foundations of confidence over time, but I can kind of understand, like a kind of fish out of water. You just feel a bit like, oh God, what do I do?
Where am I? What am I doing? Kind of thing.
And so that's why, as I was saying earlier, I think it's about building up. If you are of that kind of level of confidence, about building it up by just doing smaller, more achievable things, and then building up and starting to get comfortable, and you know, you'll learn, basically.
Achievable adventures.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, it sounds good, right? You got the alliteration of achievable adventures, but also the achievable's an interesting word, because now that we've had Sonny and now we've got Lockie, so two boys, achievable means a totally different thing to us. You know, so a lot of people, we have a lot of followers, I think, who have kids. We get a lot of message from people who have kids. But all of a sudden, the word achievable means I've had a child. Is my life on an adventure front over? Because when we were building up to having Sonny, Jess was pregnant. People were saying, "Well, you're gonna have to stop doing what you're doing, aren't you?" And I was just always like, "Do you?" Thinking I don't think you do.
You just refocus.
Yeah,
reframe
you do reframe it, exactly, and you're essentially it changes. You have to make tweaks, and it's not exactly the same. You're not like previously we were absolutely mad on an adventure because of what our job. We'd be shooting at this time of year. You'd be shooting you'd be out of bed at 4 a.m. to try and catch sunrise, and then you'd be going to bed at sort of 10 p.m. doing sunset stuff, and in the middle you try and pack it out. And actually looking back on that, that's not a great way to do it. Like that, you're not. And what Sunny allowed us to do is slow it right down, do one thing a day, and enjoy that one thing, and also be prepared for that one thing to go completely wrong. And just know that tomorrow will be a better day if that does go wrong. So that achievability thing is really interesting. And again, it's back to comfort zones. Like what's achievable for you might not be achievable for me, just through a variety of different factors. I might scare the absolute life out of me. So yeah, we like achievable adventures because I think it resonates with people.
Yeah,
definitely.
People get it, basically.
Definitely.
Yeah, whatever is achievable to you, that's what you can go and do. And yeah, like you said, it is just such a personal experience, a personal thing that you can judge based off of like what your comfort zone is.
Exactly. Yeah. And it puts the power on you. And I also think like one thing we try and avoid is like, I hate the feeling that I'm telling other people what to do because there's a lot of that online. You know what I mean? Like, you need to do this, and
if you haven't done this, then
you're
an idiot.
Yeah, real people do this.
Yeah.
The classic is, like if you got to wake up at 4 a.m. and like do yoga, and then
my 5 to 9 before my 9 to 5.
That stuff, and I watch it because it's like compelling, right? That content format works because you're like, oh, tell me what to do. Like this person's so successful.
Yeah.
But I come out the back of it feeling really like, oh, I don't feel good having watched something like that. So we're constantly trying to not tell people what to do, but more say like, this is what works for us. These are some of our learnings, and like, kind of, it's up to everyone to do whatever you do whatever you want. Like, but this is the sort of framework that roughly worked for us. Like we're always being asked, do you want to like sell courses or sell presets? Is a big one we get, and it's like, not really. People just, no, I don't want to do that because I don't want to tell people like we can tell you how to live a happy life
because
like,
we're amazing.
Yeah, because like we're experts in happiness. It's like, I don't know, like everyone's different, like I guess, but it's difficult because we're obviously trying to skirt a bit of a line there, because what we do is saying to people, these places are really cool. So we are sort of doing it, but we're not saying go to these places and your life's going to be amazing, sort of thing. So it's trying to figure out that messaging point again, because I feel very uncomfortable with saying to people, we've got the formula, we've got the recipe.
Yeah. It's food for thought.
Yeah, it doesn't come across like that. It comes across that you're just encouraging.
Happy. Yeah. Oh, great. That's a good word.
So don't worry about that at all.
Yeah.
That's also kind of what we want to do with our podcast. That's why we call it the Seedling Podcast. It's like, we want to plant the seed. It's up to you whether you
water it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think that's cool. That's really cool.
We are going to start wrapping up the episode.
Yeah.
So,
talk about the quote.
Yeah. Do you want to? Do you want to share?
Yeah, I'm going to use my phone as well.
Yeah, no,
of course. Go for it.
So I haven't got a quote. I've gone a little bit off brief. Let me get it up.
That's absolutely fine.
There we go. What do we got? So there's two things, and it's on children, which again, just off the back of what we were just talking about, when you start talking about parenting, it becomes very, like, I really don't want to be telling people what to do, because that is a whole world of people telling you what to do with that. But the first statistic that I was reading about is essentially that children in the UK, on the whole, spend less time outside each day than people in prison. Yeah.
Wow.
And that's as a result of dwindling sort of spaces and access to the outdoors, all the things that we've spoken about. It's to do with screens. It's to do with and that's 60 minutes, by the way. So prisoners spend 60 minutes outside, and children don't. So they're rushed off to school in the morning. They don't really spend much time outside at playtimes and whatever, and then they just rush back home. They might go to an after-school club or whatever it may be, and they don't end up spending time outside. And that's quite shocking, I thought, / really shocking. And it
Very shocking, oh my God.
And it kind of dovetailed nicely with a piece of research from, I think it's Glasgow University published a paper that said that children who spend 60 minutes daily in nature have a 50% lower risk of mental health issues.
Wow.
Yeah, and I just thought that was absolutely mad. Just in terms of that number being 50%, like everything we've spoken about today, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But to have research that's been, obviously looked into properly by the right people that comes out with 50%, it's shocking to me that that's all that requires is that, and that the modern world is taking away happiness through everything that we're bombarding people with. So I guess it wraps up nicely. We were all very fortunate in our younger years to build that relationship with nature, and as life's got more hectic as we've got older, we've been able to go back and fall back onto it. And so perhaps the thing here is that we need to, through what we do, we need to work with this charity that we're going to work with to help these inner city kids get out, because if they don't have that, they're 50% more likely to experience anxiety, mental health issues.
Yeah.
And to me, that's something that on a governmental level people should be shouting about.
For sure. It would stop so much crime as well. Like,
well, all of the
the gangs and issues.
Yeah,
surrounding
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just the anxiety and mental health epidemic in general, it could be really impacted by just getting outside. And then getting outside should be free.
Yeah.
It's just get outside.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, thank you so much.
No, it's a pleasure. It's been really fun.
Yeah, it's been an honour having you on.
Best Father's Day of my life so far.
Oh, yeah, happy Father's Day.
Thank you very much.
You're doing an amazing job.
Thank you very much. So you guys, it's great. It's very cool, very inspiring.
But yeah, thank you everybody for listening or watching. It's been an amazing episode.
If anyone wants to find Charlie and his lovely wife Jess and their little kids, it's the Travel Project on Instagram. Have you got anything else you would want to add or promote or let people know that you're working on? I know you said you're working with a charity, but
not really. Like I hate promoting stuff. So if you want to check out our stuff, come over to Instagram, and if you've got any questions, fire us a message. But other than that, I think the main thing to promote is just just trying to get out there, find a friend, make some commitments before the end of the year, something that's realistic, and then moving into next year, I'm pretty sure you'll say to each other, that was fun, let's do it again this year.
For sure.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much.
No problem, it's a pleasure.
And we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.